Kendall Baker. Welcome to the Sport Profile.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Of course. We were just talking about how people spend their time, away from work and things like that. And for somebody who's as busy as you are, cranking out as much stuff as you are, daily newsletters with Yahoo, how are you spending your time when you're not writing something or tracking down a source? Because I know you're doing that quite often.
I mean, I will say, I assume many other sports writers are like this. Maybe not. But I frankly am watching a lot of sports.
Yeah.
I play a lot of sports. I play a lot of basketball. I would play as much basketball as my life will allow it.
Yeah.
I just moved to the suburbs, so I've got a weekly game I found. I'm trying to find some more. Like basketball is probably the thing I enjoy doing the most.
How's your jump shot?
Athletically, I got a strong jump shot. I'd say my 3-point shot is probably my strong suit, and I think that's a nice asset to have as you get older.
Yeah.
So,
anywhere on the floor, or you got a particular spot?
I just don't leave me open. Yeah.
Okay, he's like that.
No, I mean, corner is pretty good, but yeah,
sure.
No, I play a lot of hoops, really anything, but obviously, basketball is just the easiest thing to get the guys together and play.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I mean, it really, it's cliche, but like part of why I found myself working in sports, in the first place was because I just remember my early days at ESPN, like, I really felt like I was getting paid to do what I would have been doing if I was off. I mean, I guess I wouldn't have been, transcribing the highlights and turning them into highlights, but I would have been watching that game. So I really do like my life is very much sports all the time.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I like, I've recently started to cook more. So that's, I'm adult now. I gotta pick up some hobbies that are a little more adult. Yeah, cooking. I love traveling. When the job allows it, I obviously get to do some traveling for work, which is great. But going on trips with my family, with my wife, is always a highlight for me. So yeah, nothing crazy. I mean, I wish I had like some like weird hobby that I could dive into, but I think if you could tell somebody who reads my newsletter every day, like you probably have a hunch that I love sports. I genuinely love
I thought so.
Yeah.
What would be, and I used this phrase earlier today, and I don't know how I feel about it right now because it really just came off rip, but what would be your doom scroll of choice? If you could dive deep into anything, what would you want it to be? For me right now, it's 3D printing and furniture flipping from like thrift stores.
Interesting.
I don't have a 3D printer nor the interest right now to flip any furniture. But let me tell you, over the last 48 hours, it has fucking skyrocketed. So what would that be for you?
Yeah, that's good. So you're saying basically like a specific topic that I could just like go down a rabbit hole on?
I guess so, yeah. What would it be for you?
Yeah. You know what? I would say I don't have a specific historic thing, but and this is also like very par for the course as you get older. I feel like this is classic. But like history, I just love like
yeah, I've heard that from folks too.
Oh, I just like if I discover something that happened I didn't really know about, I'm like definitely one of those people that like will just sort of go down the rabbit hole on it and like not really emerge for who knows how long.
Yeah.
My dad's like a huge history buff. It never really rubbed off on me until it started to more like he knows like the most random stuff.
Yeah.
Probably read a book about it. And I just find that like really fun sometimes.
That is fun.
I mean, this is like not, this is like very like not something a journalist should be saying, I guess, but like Wikipedia is the best, man. You stumble down a rabbit hole on Wikipedia.
Some of it has value.
Next thing you know, it's like you're 10 pages deep. I'm a sucker for like learning something new and then just sort of trying to find out everything I can about it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, just don't cite it. You don't really know. But like, hey, in this day and age, it's more than just Wikipedia, as we all know.
Of course. There's always a YouTube video to accompany it.
Yeah.
There's plenty. So yeah, I would say that, like just stumbling down a rabbit hole about like something I am just now learning about and sort of wanting to educate myself about it.
Sure. Absolutely. Going off history a little bit, but like, is there like a favorite era you have, or
No, I
really
mean,
just general?
it's really more. American history is always fascinating to me.
Me too.
I feel like it's underrated a little bit.
I agree.
But no, nothing in particular. It's really more like, I feel like I'm pretty, you know, educated on history, and so
Sure.
I find something that I didn't know about. It sort of piques my interest in a particular way.
Yeah.
I just love like filling in the blanks I didn't know about, learning about it. I mean, I guess actually to answer your question, what when it comes to history, if I were to narrow it down, particularly interested in learning about like people and
Yeah.
whether it's like a business person from hundreds of years ago or something like a person and sort of like understanding like their story and the context of the times. Like, I guess that would be particularly something I would dive into, like people of
Yeah,
history.
I could see that for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, that's certainly something I've always been into, which is, kind of why I started this. It's like you're interested in people, and most people I think go into journalism it's because they like people.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely some truth to that. Yep.
then there's the other section of journalists who just like absolutely hate people.
Yeah.
The people I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah, and it's like, why'd you go into this profession?
I
you
mean,
know
yeah, like if you want to, yeah, you sort of want to take some people down. It's a good way to do that, I guess.
that too. So for the majority of your career, it's been about newsletters
Yeah.
with Sports Internet, with Axios, with Yahoo. I'm really curious to hear your perspective on this because you are, an expert on it. How is a newsletter style different from like your traditional, article format that you would see
Yeah.
on Yahoo? Obviously you guys put out a breadth of stories, but like
Yeah.
newsletters and that style of writing is very much so different than like the coverage we're seeing, let's say, about the college football playoff coming up very, very soon.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's a few ways to answer this. One would be if we're just talking newsletters more broadly, and obviously there's different formats of newsletters, different
Yeah.
cadences. But I think to start, one thing that's unique to newsletters is the fact that they're delivered via email, and I say
Yes.
this all the time. There's something about the medium of email, which is sort of more personal in nature. I think it sort of it makes it feel a little bit more casual,
I could
in a
see
way
that.
that sort of lends itself to more personality a little bit, just a little bit lighter. So I think regardless of the format of your newsletter, if you're sending one at all, if that content being sort of published on a website and somebody coming into it there versus coming to them in their inbox, I think it immediately sort of makes it more of a direct connection from the writer to the reader, which I
Hmm.
encourage people to lean into that and sort of like try to make them feel like you're their friend emailing them.
Absolutely.
That's just like the medium at large. But I think with what I do, which is a daily digest, I guess is one way to think about it. It's a mix of curation, original reporting. And so I think what I'm doing and what I consider my job, like if you're writing a standalone article, right, your job is to tell a story. Um, my job is to sort of take and because I do it every day, my job is to take all of the best stories, all the best news. Yeah. First of all, decide what's important, right? Because
Yeah,
every day in sports, there's a million different things I could share. If my newsletter was just a million links, I'm not really providing much value there. But
for
if
sure.
part of my job is to take those million links, decide, okay, these are the things that matter, and then figure out how do I relay this information in the most digestible and enjoyable way. That is what I view my job as. And so, my readers are varying different levels of sports fans, from like your biggest sports nerds in the world to people who are just sort of like trying to understand sports and follow it. And so I view
Yeah.
my job as to like make that process easier and enjoyable. And so it's sort of a mix of curating the best stuff. And if you were to read my newsletter, you'll see a story that I think typically online somebody might go like 500, 1,000 words. My
Hmm.
sort of taking that same story, a similar story, doing it in 200 words, and you then sort of are able to finish it, which is kind of magical. And these days,
Yeah. Right.
bailing on stories 2 minutes.
Yep.
but yeah, it's just really like efficiently relaying information to my readers in a way that like I view it like if I do my job, somebody opens this newsletter, they read it on their way to work, over coffee, however they're reading it, they get to the bottom, they finished it, and they're like, okay, I feel caught up, I'm good to go, and then they can uh, go on with their day.
Yeah.
And I think that's very similar to how people read newspapers, or at least it used to read
Sure.
newspapers because fewer and fewer people are reading them. But there's something really valuable to me about creating sort of a product that's part of people's routine and something they rely on and
Yeah.
know what they're getting when it hits their inbox, but also occasionally are surprised and introducing new sections and things like that to sort of mix it up. So that's how I think about it. It's very different from like your sort of standalone article.
I mean, I've been familiar with newsletters. I've read a few. Obviously, I read yours every day. Hearing you articulate the differences really makes those thoughts stand out to me because it's like you think about them, but you don't actually like see them until like somebody else kind of
Mhm.
tells them to you. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
now it's easier for me to make that connection. But for people who are just starting them,
Yeah.
what would you, and you've obviously built very successful ones. What would you say are maybe like your 3 to 5 best tips for like anybody in any kind of space to build like a successful newsletter?
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. I mean, number one is absolutely consistency, which is the hardest thing. So that's why it's the most important.
Yes.
I mean, whether it's not just newsletters, podcasts, anything, there's a million examples of people start something, they have, all these great ideas, and then it's time to actually like execute and do the work.
Yeah, right.
In my case, every day, or if it's weekly, like whatever you set out to do, I think consistency is the most important thing.
Of course.
And particularly with newsletters too, because like I said, the best newsletters, whether it is daily, weekly, whatever it is, you want to, and it is obviously easier to do this with a daily, but you want to form a habit. You want to create something where
Mm,
people sort of in my case, when my newsletter hits people's inbox, my like loyal readers, it's not about like, does my subject line get them to open it? Like they're going to open it because that's what they do. It's like when
right.
it arrives in your driveway, you go read it. You don't like look at the cover. I don't want to read that today. It's like that. It's part of your day.
Sure.
So the only way to do that is for you to consistently be there every day. And if you miss a day, or you'll just slowly over time, people will start to tune out because they've got about
Yeah.
a million other options. So consistency is the most important. Absolutely. I'd say another one is finding and leaning into like your voice. So I
Okay.
think back to my point of email, like I think email just as a medium like really leans, like you can really lean into that in a way you can't
Yeah.
other. If you're just like a staff writer at a magazine or a online publication, whatever, and you're writing a few articles a week or whatever you're doing, people probably aren't consistently reading your stuff. They're probably coming to your article, reading one, like they don't really know you. They don't have a relationship with you, at least at the start. And so it's harder to sort of build that consistent voice, compared to what you can do with a newsletter. And so I always
Yeah.
people to, regardless of the topic of your newsletter or what you're doing, obviously there's plenty of room in there for the reporting and whatever you're doing, but there's also plenty of opportunities, whether it's in your intro or just sort of finding opportunities to inject your personality into it a
Yeah.
little and sort of make it feel like, again, like somebody, like a friend is emailing you versus like somebody like very, you know, it's almost like you don't have to be like too professional
For
if that makes,
sure.
so finding opportunities to do that.
Is
So
that is that something that you've kind of gravitated toward over the course of your career? Obviously, you've done, all different types of writing, but that newsletter style, what about that made
yeah,
you
I mean,
gravitate
look,
toward it?
like my newsletter literally has my name on it, right? It arrives in your inbox from Kendall Baker. Obviously, I work at Yahoo, very big company, but
For sure.
it's from me. You're getting an email from me, and so and that's always been the case for me. And so I've always viewed that as,
Hmm.
well, if you're getting an email from me, like I might as well, without like this isn't about me, but I might as well take opportunities to sort of share a little bit about me,
Absolutely.
and not just like, hey, like I had this for breakfast or whatever. It's,
Yeah.
delicately weaving in your personality, your interests. I mean, for example, I'm a like a diehard Baltimore Orioles fan, And
Ooh.
my readers, if they've been reading me for a while, like probably aware of that just because I sort of
Yeah.
occasional opportunities to get that in there. Um, but also, and I'm talking about like very direct, literal examples, but there's also plenty of ways to sort of build your voice in your writing style,
Mhm.
and that's sort of a hard one to like teach or tell you how to do. It's more
Oh,
like
totally.
everybody has their own way to do it, but I think the best thing I can tell people is like encourage you to do it and don't ever shy away from it, particularly in this medium. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think those are two really strong things. And then I guess the other advice I'd give is, one thing I've noticed in newsletters as they've become more popular, and now you have Substack and Beehive and all these other platforms that are making it easier than ever for people to start newsletters. Same thing happened with podcasts. It's like people look at the newsletters that worked, and then they sort of do their version of that. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
now that look like mine, or they look like Morning Brew or any other successful media newsletter where somebody looked at that, oh, that worked, sort of tried to copy the format and tweak it, for their subject or whatever they're doing. That's not a bad strategy. I would just say at this point, there's so many of those that
Mhm.
it's going to be very hard for you to stand out as like the Yahoo Sports AM of X or the Morning Brew of this. And so I
Yeah.
think innovating, trying new things, it's again, it's easier said than done, but email is somewhat limiting in that you just have text and some images to work with, but
Sure.
there's so many things you can do. When I started my newsletter 8 years ago, 7 years ago, my take was, okay, nobody's doing Sports Center in an email, and that's sort of
Mm.
what I set out to do. But then when I sat down to do that, it's like, well, what does that look like? And I sent 25, I think, different formats over the first 2 months. I basically
Wow.
tried different formats, completely like all different stuff. One big story, then small stories, 10 stories, anything you could think of, and just sort of, how'd that feel for me? I opened it up for feedback, and over time, I sort of
Of course.
landed on the format that works. And so I just always tell people like try stuff, experiment with different formats, and don't just go in thinking, oh, that newsletter did is doing well, so I'm just going to like copy it.
Yeah. I really appreciate that because it shows that like you can take inspiration from others, but
Yep,
also the priority should be on like making it your own thing
for sure.
and standing out, which I think too many people do the former and
Yeah.
kind of
I mean, look,
ride off that.
there's nothing wrong with
Oh, of course.
taking inspiration and
Absolutely.
the best products in the world, like very much like copied other things. But yeah,
Yeah.
this is, and particularly just what I'm seeing in the newsletter space, there's just not a ton of like new, new formats. Even what I did 8 years ago, like nobody was doing that, which is wild to me, but nobody was
Yeah,
doing
right?
center in an email. And I'll just throw out like one idea for people because I feel like when I talk to people, they're always not thinking like enough about this. It's
Sure.
one way I thought about formats early on was I listened to a lot of podcasts
Mhm.
and took like you can find inspiration in other mediums and apply them to newsletters. So I think a lot of
Yeah.
people are like, oh, what works in newsletters? I'm do that. If there's a podcast you really like and they have a cool segment in the middle, or the format of the show is particularly interesting, or you find effective, like try to translate that into a newsletter. I think that's totally, or watch like a late night TV show or an interview show. Like you can always take formats in other mediums and apply them to
Oh,
other.
absolutely.
Yeah,
100%. I've taken inspiration from other podcasts when, doing this one for sure.
yeah,
There you had mentioned before that you are going to be a dad pretty soon.
yeah.
How excited are you?
Extremely, extremely excited.
What excites you the most aside from the obvious of one being a father, that fact is going to become true, but also what are you nervous about?
All right. Well, geez, this is a loaded question. So first is what I'm excited about.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, everything. I have a great relationship with my dad.
Nice.
I actually, just moved back to where I grew up, so I'm closer to my parents now. So I'm spending a lot of time with them.
That's awesome.
I think that, yeah, just like bringing up like childhood memories. And I think I'd say, there's a million answers to this, but I'd say maybe if I had to choose one, is sort of the excitement I get thinking about, hopefully creating the same sort of like memories and just good feelings I have about my childhood for my child. I think that's a superpower in some ways if you can
Yeah.
give your kid a beautiful childhood that they can always sort of look back on and sort of feel that love that they had growing up. Like if I can bring that to my kids, that makes me extremely excited. And then I guess to answer the question, what I'm most nervous about is sort of like, okay, yeah, like you just never done it before, so
Yeah.
just I think it's just this feeling of like I have no idea what this is going to be like, and sort of knowing that I have no idea what it's going to be like, and knowing that I'm going to have to basically learn everything for the first time and figure everything out. That also is kind of partly exciting, but I think it's very
Hmm.
it does make you nervous as well, just sort of not being able to like I'm a big guy, I'm a big like planner and like
Same.
just sort of like wanting to know what I've got going on next week, and my life is sooner or later going to turn into you have no idea what every day is going to be. So
Yeah.
it's a little nerve wracking,
I mean, is it not like that already in the sports world?
a little bit, but I at least of what I'm going to be
Yeah,
doing,
generally, right?
what's expected of me. But
Yeah,
well,
from a
definitely,
general sense,
yeah,
which is, I think, more than most. Like, if you're able to have like a general sense of what you got going on in a day, I
yeah,
think that's a pretty good day.
good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to ask, you built sports internet from the ground. You started it. It was acquired by Axios. For you to build something, have it reach a certain stature, have it acquired by a major brand like Axios, what did that mean for you personally to build something completely and then have it be acquired by a major brand like that?
It was cool. I mean, it was certainly not something I anticipated. Definitely not happening that quickly. I mean, this all happened like a year after I had launched my newsletter, and in
Yeah.
my I was going to build that for a few years and sort of take it from there. So it was, it was cool to see. And I think at the time, I was writing the newsletter, but I was also doing a million other things
Mm,
and, wasn't making, much money, if any money. And so
yeah.
when that opportunity sort of presented itself, it was very exciting to sort of have an opportunity to double down on what was working and see how big we can make it. So yeah, it was very validating. I think again, like when I started my newsletter, I was like, why is nobody doing sports in an email? And
Yeah.
to see like less than a year later, a major brand basically validate that like, yeah, that the thing you created is popular, people are liking it, and we see the value in it was cool. So yeah, it was exciting. But honestly, like for me as somebody who just loves building stuff, it did not feel like maybe a win in the way that some people might think it was. It was
Hmm.
just sort of like
Interesting.
continuation of the journey, and I'm just sort of never not one that's ever really like satisfied. So it was
Yeah.
sort of I never really look back. I often don't even really talk about how it's being acquired or anything. It was more
Yeah.
like taking it there and taking the next step and making it bigger and growing it. And obviously now I'm at Yahoo, and it's all sort of, to me at least, how I think about it, is all sort of a continuation
That's
of
really interesting though.
the journey. Yeah.
Were there any other potential bidders aside from Axios?
Yeah. I talked to a bunch of places, ESPN, The Athletic. I kind of talked to everybody because nobody was really doing this. And I mean, it's
Why do
still,
you think that is, though? It's so surprising. You've hit on that a few times. The fact that nobody had been doing like what you described as sports centered in an email, but like
yeah. I mean, well, I
really
think,
surprising that
yeah, a
you
few
know
things. One is a lot of places, and it's starting to change, but
for
still,
sure.
I think a lot of publications don't understand newsletters, and they think of email as like marketing.
Okay.
So, like a lot of newsletters still to this day are, here's our best stuff. Come and the goal of the newsletter is to get you to come to the website or get you to come to the app. Like
Yeah.
the goal is to get you to click out. Whereas what I do and what the best newsletters do, they are just editorial products. The content is in the newsletter natively. People are reading the newsletter. The goal is not to get them out of the newsletter and onto the site. The goal is to
Mm,
for them an experience within the newsletter. So I think that's part of it is just weren't been thinking about newsletters that way. And I think the other thing is, which I always thought was just wrong, but I do understand why you'd think this, is that email is seen as a very like sort of professional medium, like right, like people are using
Okay.
work
Sure.
and their job, and so you look at politics or business or any of these other verticals where people are reading newsletters sort of for their work. I think those, for, a lot of those publications are really invested in newsletters for that
Yeah.
reason. As the thinking is, oh, this person works in this field and they're have their email and they're reading the newsletter at work. So I think there's just this disconnect with sports being sort of like in many respects really purely entertainment
Okay.
and an email, which is not really seen as like this medium where like you're reading about things for fun. Even though
Yeah.
I just personally, I just always thought that was wrong, but I do think that has contributed to it a little bit where just again, newsletters and email are viewed as like a professional sort of like you're reading it for work versus like personal.
No, I definitely understand the perspective there, and it's it's an interesting dichotomy, the personal versus professional in an email setting, because sometimes, or many times rather, emails are very professional. They also could be pretty personal sometimes
Yeah.
too. So, Kendall, the last question I do ask everybody is just, professionalism aside, your newsletter and career aside, just specifically you as a person. Kendall Baker, what's something you like most or admire about yourself?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I guess I would say my work ethic probably, which is mostly because I feel like there was a time in my life where I can look back now and say like I didn't have the best work ethic. I was sort of like
Yeah.
coasting on certain things, and yeah, it's just sort of something that I think partially through this career journey I've had where the job I do is entirely a result of like how much effort I put in. If I wake up and don't put in the effort, the newsletter is just going to suck or it's not going to get
Yeah.
out. So sort of by by the nature of my job has sort of forced me to develop my work ethic, and I think it's definitely something I admire about myself at this point is that I like refuse to not put in A plus every day, and like again that's sort of you sort of have to like if when
Absolutely. Yeah.
your name is on something. I don't know. I could if I send a newsletter, and this is I'll admit this has happened not many, but this has happened sometimes over
Sure.
the 8 years of doing this, where I genuinely felt like I just didn't nail it. It kills me for like the whole next day because I'm like, oh, like
Does it really?
hundreds of thousands of people just read this. They probably can't tell that, but in my head, I'm like, this sucks. This I didn't put an A plus
Is
effort
that
in.
how debilitating is that for you? The
Yeah, no, I mean, well, there's so many things about email. Like, for example, you email you can't edit, right? So,
Yeah. Once it's there,
I
it's there.
right. So if I send a newsletter and it has a typo, can't do anything about it,
Yeah.
and I get hundreds of emails. Hey, like, um, so that sort of forces you to like really try to make sure you don't make any mistakes. But no,
Yep.
I just think like I'm sure anybody who has a media product out there that is sent so frequently and is from their name and is so directly tied to them, like, yeah, there's definitely a pressure of like wanting it to be your best work all the time.
Absolutely.
And I think like you do have to understand like, yeah, it's not going to be your best work all the time, but like if you can just if you feel good about the work you put into it, like I think that's just a good baseline for me, and that's sort of like the gut check I do with myself on a daily basis. Do I feel good about
Yeah.
that? And that's all you can really ask for.
Absolutely. Yeah. May we all continue to give our best efforts every single day.
Absolutely.
Kendall, it's been so awesome hearing your story and learning more about you. And I can only be excited about what is to come with, the newsletter going forward.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you so much.
Of course.